Yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries. Thanks for joining us in Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm RJ. We've had some recent discoveries when it comes to the Chiliad Mystery. First starting off with an X inside a box found by Wispy Woods. We still have to talk about that one a little bit more in depth. But now there's a new discovery dealing with the Observatory, a place we've been thinking might have something new to discover. Joining us once again, Danny. What's going on, MusicVidiot?
Not much, man. Thank you very much, Trippy, for having me on yet again. This mystery is very, very insane, and I cannot wait to get involved in this discussion.
Yeah, one guy you've given a lot of credit to is Delta, so we had to bring him along, especially because he's got to explain what's going on here at the Observatory. Delta, welcome to Trippy Commentaries.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Great to have you here. Now, we do have these crazy looking discs, or plates, I guess we'll call them, outside of the observatory surrounding this strange obelisk. On top of the obelisk, you do have that orb that seems to line up with the sun. It creates an eye symbol, and it kind of goes all the way around this courtyard, sometimes even landing right on these plates. So we always thought there was probably something behind them. Delta, you think you have the answer. What's going on?
All right, so the observatory is based off of the Griffith Observatory in real life. And at the Griffith Observatory in real life, you have planetary plates that represent each planet in our solar system. Now, there's also solstice plates which represent the seasons in the year. And there's also the sun plates that are at the observatory. But in the game, they're representing the sun, where the sun is rising and setting, and where the sun is at midnight, or where the moon is at midnight. We're looking at a moon dial, so really we're looking at the moon. But the planetary plate is actually the planet. They singled out the planet Uranus out of the whole entire solar system. When we see the planet Uranus, like just the name Uranus, take me up Uranus at the Hippie camp, you actually see that Uranus actually follows the exact line that it is on these plates. These end plates, there's a plate right here but where you're standing by the elevator, and that one wraps around to the solstice plate that's on the side, and it goes through this gold solstice plate by the obelisk, and then another planetary line by where the electrical area is, and then it wraps around the building, and that's how it is in real life. That is planet Uranus right there.
Okay, and so basically you're saying this is pointing out Uranus. For example, we have what looks almost like an egg-shaped plate over here. I mean, what would that be symbolizing then?
That's a solstice plate. We're actually looking for a solstice, and there's a solstice and an equinox. We're looking for the solstice, and the next time actually a solstice will happen in real life is in the year 2020, and we actually see that on like Los Santos 2020 posters places too. So maybe it's a hint toward that as well. But this represents a solstice, so we're looking for a certain moon phase that would lie on the sun plate, and which would connect all these gold lines together, and with hitting the Uranus plate, which connects to the solstice plates, tells you that we need a certain solstice. So the moon has to be a certain phase and a certain height in the hemisphere, basically. So if it's low to the ground, you're in the summer solstice. If it's higher in the sky, then it's the winter solstice. And the winter solstice will actually put a shadow of the eye or a sun symbol, whatever one you want to call it, on the sun plate right in front of the observatory door steps.
Okay, interesting. So that points out Uranus, perhaps, making astrology one of the biggest links to everything. You see the sun, almost the glare in the background. That's the same exact glare that is found at the Fort Zancudo bunker. With all of these symbols, of course, leading us to the sun. Now Uranus, also shoot for the stars, being the symbol here, or at least on the UV map at the observatory. Seems like they're pointing us towards the stars, outer space, and astrology. Now, a quick question for you here, Delta, and we'll get to you here soon, Danny. I wanted to ask you some definite questions about the observatory. But I notice on the obelisk out here, the one that's creating the shadows in question, you have an orb on top, but it seems like the one in front is a little bit different and also creating a shadow in its own. Perhaps that's a different eye symbol. I mean, what the hell's going on? I think this is It's funny how
It's
this
actually,
one's been right here in front of us, but we haven't really talked about it.
yeah, that's actually like right around the right time too that you need to see this too. So you're right on the mark here.
Nice.
But that's would create the faded eye glyph actually, which is currently unsolved on the mountain. We have two unsolved glyph. One looks like a regular eye, and one looks like a faded eye. This becomes the faded eye because the obelisk, because the way the dial sits on the obelisk, the obelisk shadow is actually cutting off the corner of this eyeshadow. So the way Rockstar needed to make it put it on into a glyph, they needed to cut out the corner. So that was like dubbed our faded eye glyph. So that I think is representing our faded eye, our missing eye, and it represents an eclipse or high tide, low tide, which would correspond with tsunamis and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one thing that I've really been looking at as far as the Chiliad Mystery is concerned is time. You know, time travel, something to do with time, because it's something else that may be hinted here or there. So maybe time, of course, having to do with space and astrology. That certainly has a lot of time going on. Maybe that is a link in itself as well. So I do have to ask you, MusicVidiot, you've been looking at so many different factors in the Chiliad Mystery. This is another big one coming on the heels of the discovery of a possible another symbol there on the map found at the mural on top of Mount Chiliad. So, I mean, what do you think's going on here? Do you think that astrology is being hinted at by the Observatory and somehow that is linked to the biggest mystery in the game?
Oh, I definitely do. I mean, the evidence speaks for itself. I mean, these discoveries are just unbelievable. They are showing us everything that we've been looking at. We've been so lost looking at all these fragmented clues, different, symbols, different signs, and we just never been able to make sense of anything. Now that these discoveries are coming out, we're actually able to get some sort of a direction, and we're actually able to start to organize and put all these different clues into place. And it's just the bigger picture is starting to finally get revealed. Trippy, I wouldn't doubt if this mystery would get solved within the next 6 months from now.
I would hope so. Let's go ahead and move on. We'll meet you guys at the alien hippie camp. Now, as far as these little circles you can find all around the camp here, what do you think's going on here? Because I know a lot of people have thought that there was a link to yoga between that, the karma messages, pleasure. I mean, what do you take from it all?
Alright, so basically, like, you have to know that the circle within the circle is the sun. And once you know that all the other symbols kind of stick out to you. You have the Uranus opposition, which is two circles with two dots in the middle with a line connecting both of them. That represents the Uranus opposition. Uranus opposition represents your midlife crisis in real life, and it's another name in astrology for midlife crisis. So basically, are they pointing to Uranus once again here? And then you have another symbol with the sun in the middle, and then you have Earth's rotation around the sun and the moon's rotation around it. And that's when you see those half circles that kind of look like they're wrapping from the line out. And then you have another one that's opposing. There's only 4 of them, and then they're repeated around the whole camp. But the other one is, I'm not really sure on this one, but I'm pretty sure it's the sun opposing Uranus. And then you have a bunch of other little weird symbols, or some on the truck, and then there's some further up in the hippie camp on the other levels.
Delta has said time and time again that the mural is our key and the hippie camp is our guide. Basically, if you think something is involved in solving this mystery, you can pretty much find it at the hippie camp. And so far, I found it to be true. I've done a lot of videos talking about natural disasters. We've brought it up before in our previous discussions. And that truck has the different element colors on its wheels, like the green, the red, and the blue one is missing, possibly hinting at a tsunami, with the water and the wind. You also got that earth picture at the Hippie Camp Hill, which has those big wind swirls, possibly hinting at, the wind taking the water and turning, a tsunami and hitting Los Santos. There's so many different things that come to mind. You also had those suspicious yoga deaths happen. In our last discussion video together, you can see that from above as being the Uranus opposition that Delta was just talking about. So there's a lot that comes to mind. This is just so insane how all these clues are just coming together.
Yeah, you just showed that BP too, and I want to point out that BP is that people think that might point toward gas, which that could be true because gas again. Once again, we see that again with Uranus and all that. But the BP is also could be referencing Beppe. I think that's how you pronounce his name is Beppe, and he was a comedian and an actor, and then he turned to like an environmentalist, and he actually runs an environmentalist group. So it could be hinting towards like environment and like environmental disasters and stuff like that.
Interesting. This is definitely all lining up to definitely Uranus as far as gas is concerned as well. People have been pointing out to put Ron in your tank. So Ron, another gas company. So we do have an interesting symbol here as well at the top of the alien hippie camp. Anything else you want to point out here? Because I think that's pretty cool how you do have a new link to these circles. They're certainly found everywhere, including the space docker, and maybe these are possibly the hidden glyphs as you put them, Danny.
Yeah, the also like right here there's like a one that looks like a penis, and this is where it starts to get a little funny. Laugh all you want here. You can it looks like a penis, and the two balls of the penis really are the sun and the moon, and how they meet in the middle represents the eclipse. What actually makes like the shaft of it is actually the observatory, and that's actually the observatory golden lines right there. That first dark circle above would be representing the sun, and that's and we see that at the observatory. And then there's two planets that follow, which would be Earth and Moon, and essentially that would then be a penis ejaculating into Uranus, if you think about it in astrological terms.
Nice. Damn. All right. Well, maybe we can find these glyphs in other places, because we know that they're at the alien water towers. In fact, we here at the channel have been looking at the alien water towers, wondering if there's anything going on there. Because we have the secret message, the special edition map for the game, and there's still been nothing. Now, in the last video we put out, we actually came across some yoga enthusiasts there who suddenly died out of nowhere. Danny, that was crazy. We did not plan for that to happen at all, and I've never seen that for as much as I've played the game. Are you taking anything out of that, Danny? I know we have to look more in depth as far as that's concerned as well. The fact that we have yoga in our minds and that these guys just suddenly die out of nowhere, that cannot be a coincidence.
Well, the more I thought about it after we did that video, I went back and watched it over and over, and there's no way that your blades touched them people. They literally just fell and died or passed out or whatever they did. They just collapsed, and it just blows my mind that something like that happened. It's unexplained, yet another crazy mystery within a mystery, and I just think that this is all possibly to maybe have our focus back at those water towers. Maybe we're supposed to notice things like, Delta said, if we look at the water towers from above, a bird's eye view, the circle with the line connecting to the other circle is the Uranus opposition, which represents the midlife crisis. So that could be the reason why weird stuff happens there. So our focus remains on the the prize at hand, which is solving the mystery.
Unfortunately, nobody doing yoga here this time. So, Delta, do you think that then this is yet another link to Uranus and, of course, astrology?
Of course I do. So first you see that the silos look exactly like the hippie camp, and they have the symbology all over it, the symbolism all over it, and it's looks like the Uranus opposition from a bird's eye view. You have the two circles and then the bar that runs across the middle. And again, a Uranus opposition is a midlife crisis, and it goes into really like the cults and stuff, but if you join like a cult, you're lost in life, and that's why the Lost Camp is actually right across the way from these silos right here. And these silos are actually at the hippie camp. You see them as little miniature silos with arrows on top that would actually lead you to Omega. But it also, the silo itself represents these ones. They're identical to the silos. So basically they're pointing out that these silos are important within the mystery because it's telling us something. But if you look at it from the bird's eye view, it's the Uranus opposition.
Yeah, so there you have it. And maybe that is just another meaning behind everything. You know, the astrology, the Uranus opposition, as you said, signified right here at the alien water towers. And you brought up the cults. You know, you have all of these different, you know, obviously the Epsilon cults, all these different evil organizations, you might want to call them, the altruists. So I think we do have to also point towards them as well. I know they have astrology in mind. So any last words for this video? Thanks again for joining up, Karma. I know you've been looking into the mystery for well over 2 years, much like we here at the channel. So what do you think here as far as astrology and the combination between that and the biggest mystery in Grand Theft Auto 5?
Astrology is really overlooked. So basically, if you like, you know, just don't follow cults and stuff like that. If you're like, basically the biggest cult is the one you're born into, and you don't want to join cults. Cults are evil, and astrology is the answer. The answer is 42, which is Uranus. All the clues point to the astrology, but no one's really looking here. And just the religions are basically the dead ends in the storyline, the red herrings, and we know red hair is unsavable as an epsilon, and they want to guide you away from the truth. So just follow astrology and it'll guide you.
Very interesting. Danny, thanks again for joining up. We'll hear from you again soon. Any last words yourself?
Not much, man. Just again, thank you very much for having me on the show. Delta, thank you very much for joining up too, man. It's been an awesome discussion. And basically, to leave off with the final notes of, you know, the mural is our key, the hippie camp is our guide, astrology for the win, and watch out when looking to join a cult. My final words.
Yeah, maybe we do have to tie that
man.
in. As you were saying, Delta, perhaps, you know, leading into the Epsilon, the altruist, all that stuff, maybe that is not the right way to go in the game. I don't know if there's a way to incorporate that. I know a lot of what we've been talking about here in this episode, it's hard to incorporate that into the game to maybe discover something, but we do have some theories and ideas, that's for sure. Let us know what you guys think. Thanks again to Delta and Danny Coldblood, aka MusicVidiot, for joining the channel. We have huge episodes coming very soon, so stay tuned. And as always, make sure to stay trippy, my friends.